Okay, d4, let's go knight f6. Have I lost any games yet? Okay, I'll turn the mic down as soon as this game's over. You can always turn the volume down if that's affecting it all. Yeah, I lost in time. I lost on time one game when I had checkmate in 2 moves because I was reading the chat box. So that's pretty unfortunate. But aside from that, that's the only loss. Once I started at 799 from the rating, that's the only loss. We're going to go with the Binko Gambit, which is actually my personal favorite opening. I have not played it yet in the challenge, despite... I guess he doesn't want to accept the pawn. Okay, we're going to push the pawn, kick his knight. Mike's fine on your end? Okay, so... Alright, so knight b5, big mistake. Problem with this knight, where is he going, right? He can't go here, he can't go back here, he can't go back here. a6 just picks up the knight pretty easily. The Bingo Gambit, yep. Alright, queen a5. I'm sorry, queen a4. This does technically pin the pawn. However, you know, we just play bishop to b7, and this knight's done for. We're just going to capture the knight next move. He checks, I take. No big deal. I think the idea with this opening... I think there is actually a line here. If he knows this line, it's actually kind of interesting. The idea here is that this bishop on b7 is technically dead. Right? This bishop's not going anywhere. Even if it can't go this direction. This pawn's in the way. It can't really go this way. He'll just guard the c4 pawn. So the idea here is that I probably just need to sacrifice the bishop for 2 pawns here. It's going to sound like a weird idea. You know, you just want a piece. Why are you giving it right back type thing? But this piece is essentially dead once he guards this pawn. So it's going to look weird, but I'm going to actually sacrifice the piece right back. The question is, do I sacrifice the knight or the bishop? That's the question. Let's go with the knight. Alright, we're going to sacrifice this. We're going to play bishop c6, hit the queen, and then d5. Okay, he plays that. He is going to pick up the d6 pawn. We're just going to retreat. He picks up the d6 pawn. Let's see, 3, 6, 7. I'm technically up a pawn. And this should still be better for me here. Queen f6 hitting the bishop. He's going to take the bishop. I'm going to play rook takes. I'm still hitting the b2 pawn. Well, if I wait and try to hit the pawns later, if he guards the if he guards the d5 pawn more, and then I sacrifice, I only get 1 pawn out of it instead of 2 pawns. So that's actually a pretty big difference there. So I'm going to go d5 to control the center, play knight d7. The problem with my king, I probably should have done king takes now that I think about it. King takes and then g6. This is going to look a little weird. I'm playing king e7. And we're going to just move the king back to f8 and get him safe there. Okay. So we're all safe. We're up a pawn. Good start to the game here. a5, a4, attack the queen side. Sack the knight because the bishop's my good one. It could go either way. I could have sacrificed the bishop and had reason to do that, or I can sacrifice the knight. I'll go over that in the after the game's done. All right, we're definitely playing g6 just to stop any funny business with the h7 pawn. c5 is well defended, so I'm not really worried about that. Okay, so here, let's just play rook c8. Oh, I should have played a4 first. That would have been okay, I guess. Let's play bishop to to... we're going to go 95, actually. Attack this bishop on d3. Alright, looks like we're trading. So c5's a little weak. We're going to play oops, not d4. Let's pull the bishop back for the moment. Bishop a6 is a threat. Let's go queen d6. Bishop a6 is still a threat. He might play f5 to try to attack or something like that. Okay, he doesn't. Let's play h5 just to... Actually, I'm sorry, king g7. I need to play a little quicker here. A little bit behind on the clock despite having a better position. Alright, d4. Queen, let's do d5. His position's really not terrible. He is down a pawn. Oh, wow, okay. That's a checkmate. Alright, well, like the previous game where we threatened the checkmate on h7, if they don't see the threat, that's, they gotta learn to avoid that stuff. Also, he was playing fairly quickly. Maybe he was trying to flag me. Not a good idea, to try that. When my clock gets around 10 seconds, I always panic and blunder. Well, I do have increment on here, mainly because I'm talking quite a bit. So I need to have the increment to make sure I don't flag a bunch of games. Let me see the questions here real quick, just so I can know something to look at here. Knight's a good defender. Bishop looks better, has more scope. Okay, so I'll go over that sacrifice in just a second there. Always threaten mate in 1. Yeah, they don't see it, apparently. Okay, so I end up winning the piece. The downside, I have an extra piece. That's obviously good. The downside is that this bishop on b7 is really not doing anything. It's stuck behind the pawn. The thing is, if I don't sacrifice the bishop immediately, if I don't sacrifice it, here's what happens. Let's say I just play bishop e7. Let's say f3, a5, e4. If I don't sacrifice the bishop, there's actually 2 dead pieces if you think about it. This bishop on d7 or on b7 is not going to do anything. Even if it goes here, he just guards it. Well, I guess he'd pull the queen back first and then do it. Something like that. So this bishop's not doing anything here. It's not doing anything here. It's definitely not doing anything on c8. And aside from the bishop, this knight's really not doing anything either. Okay, he goes to a6, but where's he going from here? All right. The computer's gonna not want to give the material back. That's definitely true. The computer's obviously gonna want to hold on to the material. I do think though that it's much easier to play the position when I give the material back. See, what's Black's plan here, right? I honestly don't know. Is he? I could push the pawn maybe, but let's say let's give each side a couple moves here. Let's say he goes here, I go here. He plays g4. Maybe I'm shifting to the queen side. He goes, I don't know, queen g2. I'm honestly not entirely sure what I'm doing here. Okay, I could play b3. He plays a3. It's shut down. And next he's going to play h4, h5, g5, g6, and I'm probably going to get checkmated because these 2 pieces have no influence going from the queen side to the king side. There's no way they're going to get over there. And I'm up a piece, but it's almost like I'm not up a piece. I have an extra piece in name, but it's not doing anything. So I do think, despite what the computer might say, I do think it is correct to sacrifice the piece back here. Plus, now I'm up 2 pawns, right? Instead of being up a piece, I'm up 2 pawns. That's pretty good in my book. Now, he does technically get the d6 pawn back, so I'm only up 1 pawn, but that's still pretty good. I'm up a pawn with useful pieces. So that's... You sack the knight for the pawns. Yeah, so that's what I was going for here. I could have also sacrificed the bishop. I think either way is reasonable. This actually hits the bishop, so he has to retreat. And I probably, let's say I go here, he retreats. I probably hold on to both of the pawns instead of giving one back if I use the bishop to sacrifice. So maybe taking with the bishop was better. But either way, I'm up at least a pawn. Sack the pieces when they get in the way. That's kind of how it was here. If he gets to guard this pawn, these pieces are pretty much dead pieces. So it's actually a pretty interesting idea from white, especially if you don't know what to do here as black. If you don't know that sacrificing is a very legitimate thing to do here, and you try and you're like, oh, hooray, I'm up a piece, woohoo, you could still lose the game very easily, despite being up a full entire piece here. So it's much better to have, I'd say it's much better to have play in a position and be up one pawn versus being up a piece and having like 0 things you can do. And I don't mean, how do I say? This specific position up a piece is pretty much useless. Now, other positions up a piece, of course, you'd rather be up a piece than a pawn. But this specific position is kind of one of the very few where it is very, I feel like giving up the piece helps your position, is what I'd say there. So, very interesting game for sure here. Unfortunately, he falls for checkmate immediately, but he actually didn't have a terrible position at the end there, if he had just guarded checkmate. Okay, so we're up to 1259. Let's seek another one.